In the closing months of 2025, the Russian Ministry of Defense made a bold announcement to the international community. The strategic settlement of Stepnohirsk had fallen under the control of the Russian Federation. Moscow claimed this victory was a decisive stepping stone for their broader southern campaign. But in warfare, documentation often outlasts propaganda. Fast forward to May 2026. In a spectacular overnight operation, Ukrainian forces did not just contest the area they completely liberated and de-Russified Stepnohirsk, exposing months of Kremlin narrative as a carefully constructed illusion. This was not a minor skirmish or a routine patrol clash. Stepnohirsk represents one of the most geographically critical linchpins in the entire Zaporizhzhia oblast. For over a year, the Kremlin poured significant mechanized resources and human waves into this sector, recognizing it as the absolute key to unlocking the regional capital of Zaporizhzhia city. On May 18, 2026, the main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine, known as the HUR, broke the operational silence. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, acting in perfect synchronization with heavy armor, launched a multi-axis assault that Russian garrison forces completely failed to anticipate. Within hours, fortified Russian lines collapsed. Soldiers abandoned heavy equipment, fleeing toward any available tree lines or secondary trenches. The rapid retreat was captured vividly by Ukrainian reconnaissance drones, showing a total tactical capitulation in a sector Russia had claimed to secure months prior. How did the Ukrainian armed forces achieve such a clean breakthrough against a deeply entrenched adversary? The answer lies in a shifting doctrine: the integration of localized armor with absolute aerial surveillance. Combat footage released by the HUR reveals the tactical blueprint of the operation. Ukrainian main battle tanks advanced toward Stepnohirsk, utilizing advanced anti-drone cage armor, essential countermeasures designed to detonate Russian FPV kamikaze drones, prematurely protecting the vehicle's core hulls. These tanks provided direct fire support, suppressing Russian heavy machine gun nests and concrete bunkers, while infantry fighting vehicles deployed assault troops directly into the urban fabric of the settlement. This lightning operation was spearheaded by the elite Artan Special Forces unit of the HUR. According to Artan's commander, Viktor Tokotiuk, the victory was the result of meticulous preparation rather than administrative luck. Instead of fighting blindly through an urban grid, Ukrainian troops knew exactly which buildings housed enemy personnel. Every structure was methodically cleared, and leftover Russian pockets were systematically isolated. To seal the victory, Ukrainian engineers immediately severed Russian logistical access by neutralizing a key eastern bridge, trapping remaining infiltrators in a localized pocket with zero hope of reinforcement. The only remaining escape route is now under total Ukrainian artillery fire control. To understand why the liberation of Stepnohirsk matters, we must look at the broader strategic map of 2026. This victory is not an isolated event. It is part of a deliberate Ukrainian operational framework known as active defense. Under this doctrine, Ukrainian forces do not merely hold static trenches. Instead, they absorb the impact of Russian human wave assaults, allow the enemy's momentum to exhaust itself, and then instantly strike back at exposed flank positions where Russian reserves are depleted. We saw the exact execution of this doctrine just days prior, on May 15th, in the Kharkiv region, where Ukrainian units shattered Russian lines near the village of Otradny, reclaiming 22 square kilometers of territory overnight. For nearly 2 years, the Kremlin could boast about steady, albeit costly, territorial gains. Today, that momentum has completely stalled. The Russian spring offensive, launched with massive fanfare in early March 2026, has officially run into a brick wall of dense Ukrainian engineering and precision artillery. Western military analysts note that the Russian rate of advance across all sectors has been in a steep, continuous decline since November 2025. This decay is driven by structural failures within the Russian military apparatus, severe degradation of mechanized transport, The high-profile February 2026 ban on Russian unauthorized Starlink terminals and the Kremlin's own chaotic throttling of Telegram, which inadvertently crippled the tactical communication networks used by Russian field commanders. On a standard map, Stepnohirsk appears as a small rural dot. However, in military geography, topography dictates destiny. Stepnohirsk sits on elevated terrain that offers unparalleled line of sight over the surrounding plains. For the Russian General Staff, this village was never meant to be a defensive outpost. It was engineered to be a massive staging ground. In December 2025, Reuters confirmed that Russian Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky had briefed Vladimir Putin, claiming that Russian forces were positioned a mere 15 kilometers outside of Zaporizhzhia city. The Kremlin currently holds roughly 75% of the oblast, including the critical Energodar nuclear power plant. But without the city itself, Russia cannot consolidate its political or economic grip on the region. Stepnohirsk was supposed to be the launchpad for that final assault. By liberating this position, Ukraine has effectively neutralized Russia's offensive posture in the south. The crossroads leading into the town are now transformed into a permanent kill zone. During earlier phases of the deployment, Russian infiltration units sent into the gray zones of Stepnohirsk survived for an average of just 12 minutes before being eliminated by pre-registered Ukrainian mortar fire. Now, with full physical control of the settlement, Ukraine has established a secure tactical anchor. This allows the Ukrainian High Command to shift its focus toward Huliaipol, a heavily fortified sector located dozens of kilometers to the east. While a direct push to Huliaipol remains a long-term challenge due to dense Russian secondary defense lines, the threat alone forces the Russian military to make a terrible choice: maintain their offensive in the Donbas or divert their dwindling strategic reserve southward to prevent a total collapse of the Zaporizhzhia front. The battlefield consequences of Stepnohirsk are directly linked to the geopolitical arena. War is not just won with artillery, it is won by controlling the perception of capability. Throughout the winter of 2025, Moscow actively utilized its alleged territorial gains, including Stepnohirsk, Huliaipole, and Kupiansk, as diplomatic leverage to pressure Western nations into accepting a frozen conflict on Russian terms. The sudden violent erasure of these gains by the HUR and Ukrainian mechanized brigades completely invalidates the Kremlin's diplomatic hand. When future negotiation windows open, Ukraine can demonstrably prove that Russia's territorial claims are built on administrative fraud. Furthermore, Russia's strategic priorities for the remainder of 2026 have been severely downgraded. Ukrainian intelligence officials, including Pavlo Polisa, deputy head of the presidential office, note that Russia has failed to meet every single operational deadline set for the spring campaign. The fall of the entire Donetsk Oblast, originally scheduled by the Russian General Staff for early September 2026, is now mathematically impossible given the glacial attritional pace of their current advance. With Russia forced to reallocate its remaining elite units to prop up failing operations in the Donbas, their southern flank is left dangerously exposed. The Russian army in Zaporizhzhia is no longer fighting to conquer new territory. They are fighting an attritional defensive battle to hold on to what they stole in 2022. As the dust settles over Stepnohirsk, the Ukrainian military is already transitioning to the next phase of its campaign, combining localized territorial liberation with a devastating mid-range interdiction strategy. Ukraine is no longer relying solely on Western-supplied HIMARS systems to disrupt Russian infrastructure. A new domestic generation of Ukrainian mid-range strike drones has entered the theater of war. Data from April 2026 shows that Ukrainian long-range drone strikes into the Russian rear have doubled compared to previous months, regularly neutralizing fuel depots, command centers, and air defense radars up to 180 kilometers behind the active front lines. With Stepnohirsk secured as an advanced reconnaissance base, Ukraine can now deploy tactical electronic warfare units and drone telemetry relays closer to the occupied southern coastline. Every Russian supply train moving through Melitopol and every military convoy heading toward the Zaporizhzhia front is now within the crosshairs of an optimized technology-driven Ukrainian strike loop. Stepnohirsk was not just a victory for a single night. It is the opening chapter of a systematic, calculated deoccupation of the Ukrainian south. The myth of the unstoppable Russian winter offensive has been dismantled, replaced by the stark reality of a highly professional, adaptive Ukrainian military that continues to outthink, outplan, and outfight its adversary. Thank you for watching this deep dive analysis. To stay informed on the shifting dynamics of global warfare and operational updates from the Ukrainian front, make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave your analytical thoughts in the comments section below. We will see you in the next briefing.